Eli saw it in the way her chest hitched with every breath, like each one cost her something she didn't have. Blood soaked the side of her deerskin tunic, caked and dark. Flies circled her lips, one eye swollen shut, the other barely open, watching him without fear. He stepped down from his horse, boots crunching brittle grass. She didn't move. Wind whipped through the canyon behind him, howling low like a prayer gone wrong. Eli knelt. He was 12. No doctor, no preacher, just a boy with calloused hands and a blanket rolled across his saddle. He looked back toward town, just a shimmer on the horizon, then down at her again. Her lips cracked open. "Dakota," she rasped. Then nothing. Eli untied the blanket. Thick wool. It still smelled like his mother, sage and smoke. He'd never let it touch dirt before. Now he pressed it under the girl's back and pulled the rest over her, tucking it against the wind. She flinched. "I ain't gonna hurt you," he said softly. "You're safe here." Her hand twitched, fingers curling over the hem of the blanket like it was fire. Above them, buzzards turned lazy circles. The sun dropped, painting everything copper. Eli fetched water from the nearby creek, cradled her head, helped her drink. She barely swallowed. Her skin was cold. Behind a ridge, thunder rumbled. By nightfall, he lit a fire and dragged brush around to keep coyotes off. The girl hadn't moved. Not once. Eli sat by her side, arms wrapped around his knees, listening to her breathing grow slower. He could still see the deep wound on her side, jagged like it came from a blade that didn't belong to her people. Bandits, maybe, or worse. He didn't ask. Sometime past midnight, the fire sank low. The wind dropped. The girl's breath stopped. He waited, and when he was sure, when the silence had settled in his chest like a stone, he reached out and gently closed her eye. The blanket stayed on her. He didn't take it back. Morning came with the cries of crows overhead and the soft squeal of the barn door opening back home. Eli was already walking, dust coating his boots, his face streaked with tears he hadn't let fall. The town didn't see him cry. They never did. He buried her behind the barn before breakfast, just under the fence line. No one helped. No one asked. He smoothed the earth and pressed the wooden cross into the soil. Her name wasn't on it. Just one word, carved rough and deep, just a shiver at first, enough to rattle the pitchfork leaning against the barn wall. Then louder, heavier, like something waking up beneath the earth. Eli stood in the doorway, boots planted, eyes fixed on the far ridge. Dust curled in the distance, not wind-driven, deliberate, rhythmic. Hoofbeats. Too many to count. The barn creaked behind him. Chickens were silent. Even the dogs had gone still. His grandfather stepped out from the shadows inside, face carved from silence, gray beard twitching in the breeze. He held the old Bowie knife, the one he hadn't touched since Eli's mother died. The blade gleamed. "They're coming," Eli said, voice steady. The old man said nothing, just nodded once and slid the knife into his belt. Down the hill, the town of Fair Hollow was a panic hive. Women screamed from open windows. Men stumbled out of saloons, rifles half-loaded and fear in their teeth. The sheriff stood in the street with a bottle in one hand, a shotgun in the other, sweat darkening his hatband. 700, someone muttered. 700 painted devils on horseback. No flags, no smoke. "Just watchin'," said another. By sundown, the ridge was full. Horses stood lined like sentinels, tall and still. Riders wore war paint, feathers trembling in the wind. Not a one made a sound. Just watch the barn. Watch the boy. Eli didn't flinch, didn't step back. Behind him, the grave sat fresh and quiet. The blanket still covered her, tucked just so. Her face was peaceful. The wooden cross hadn't fallen. That night, the townsfolk gathered in the church. Low whispers echoed off the cracked pews. "They want the boy," hissed the blacksmith's wife. "They think he killed her," someone else said. "No," the preacher said, voice low. "They know he didn't. But they came for something." The sheriff stood, swaying. "We give him over. By peace. Just a kid." "No," the preacher said again, stronger this time. "They came for more than blood." Lightning flashed in the west. Thunder followed like a war drum. Eli's grandfather stood outside the barn, eyes to the horizon, his hand resting on the knife hilt. Not moving, not blinking. Eli sat beside the grave, head bowed. No tears now, just waiting. By midnight, the wind turned hot, full of dust and distant chants. Too far to understand, too old to forget. The town locked its doors. The warriors never left the ridge, and the boy never left the grave. What the blanket meant. The horse stepped forward. One, then another. 700 riders stayed still. Only one man dismounted. Chief Takota walked alone through the tall, dry grass, wind lifting the fringe of his elk-hide coat, beads glinting like tears under the morning sun. His face was lined with years, not age, carved deep by war, betrayal, and loss. He stopped 10 paces from a barn. Eli rose from the grave. Neither spoke. The blanket lay over the girl's body, faded wool, frayed at the edges. But the beads stitched into the hem caught the chief's eye. He knelt. His fingers touched the pattern. 3 red triangles. A white sun. Blue zigzags for wind. He closed his eyes. "My sister sewed this," he said. His voice was gravel and sorrow. "She gave it to her daughter before she left us for the white man." Eli's jaw clenched. "My mother." Takota looked up. "Her name was Waniya," the chief said. "She was my niece. She disappeared into white land, and we buried her name in shame." Eli swallowed hard. "She died 2 winters ago. Fever." Takota turned to the grave. "And this one, her name was Sani. She was bringing word of peace, proof that our blood had not been broken forever. Raiders took her." He touched the blanket again. "But she died wrapped in kin." Behind him, Eli's grandfather stepped into the light. The silence stretched. Then the old man raised his hand, fingers moving in slow, deliberate gestures. Takota's eyes widened. "You remember," the chief whispered. "You're the translator. From Red Mesa. The white man who warned us. The only one who spoke truth." The old man signed again. "Regret. Honor. Blood debt." Takota stood, looked at Eli. "You buried her. You gave her this." He touched his chest. "You are not just her son. You are of both worlds." Eli nodded once. "I didn't know who she was. I just saw someone who needed saving." Takota's face cracked. Not a smile, not quite, but something close to grace. He turned, raising a hand toward the ridge. 700 warriors lifted their fists in silence. The wind shifted, and in that moment, the boy in dust-stained boots, standing by a grave no bigger than a garden bed, was no longer just a ranch hand. He was kin. He was bridge. He was story. The riders who never drew. The hooves hit the road like hammers on hollow wood. Dust swirled behind 4 horses as the outlaws rode into Fair Hollow, guns on their hips, laughter in their throats. Their coats were blood-stained, their mouths loud with lies. The tallest one spat tobacco as he passed the church. "Where's the preacher now?" he barked. "Might need reading rights for a couple more engines." Eli stood in the street. No hat, no rifle, just a boy in worn boots and a coat too big for his frame. His hands hung loose by his sides, but his feet didn't move. Behind him, the barn stood still. Behind the barn, the grave. And behind the ridge, 700 warriors, silent as mountains, watching from the high ground, their horses unmoving, their faces painted with war. The outlaw leader pulled his horse to a stop. "Well, look at that," he grinned. "The squaw's little brother." He dismounted. The others followed, boots hitting dirt like falling stones. The sheriff peeked from behind a shutter, breathing hard, shotgun trembling in his grip. No one else in town moved. The outlaw sauntered forward, thumbs hooked in his belt. "You buried that girl out here, boy. Did she cry for her tribe, or for you?" Eli didn't answer. The outlaw drew his pistol halfway from the holster, taunting. "You ain't got nothing to say, kid." A whisper cut through the tension. "Enough." It came from the edge of the street. Eli's grandfather stepped into view, voice raw but loud. The whole town stilled. Some swore the man hadn't spoken in years. The outlaw blinked. "Well, I'll be—" But he never finished. Chief Takota stepped into the street beside Eli. He didn't raise a weapon. He didn't need to. The outlaws looked past him, up toward the ridge, and saw 700 warriors standing, waiting, not a gun drawn, not a word said. The outlaw laughed once. Short, Nervous. This is a show? You think they scare me? He turned back toward Eli. Eli raised his voice, calm, clear. You killed a girl who had no weapon. You left her to die in the dirt. You mocked her name. Her family is here now. He stepped forward. Tell them what you did. The outlaw looked around. The church bell struck noon. Nobody moved. The silence held like steel. He reached for his gun. Too slow. A rifle cracked from somewhere unseen. He dropped. The others ran. Didn't make it far. Not a single warrior on the ridge had fired. Justice didn't need 700 rifles. Just one boy, standing in front of a barn. One blanket over a grave. And a name, whispered into legend.